Welcome to the webinar about the state of SIAM, the result of the large worldwide survey about SIAM conducted earlier this year by EXIN and BCS. My name is Jan Smeur. I work at the EXIN marketing department. I have two presenters for you that will tell about the outcome of the survey and how it shows there is a need for certification. You will be to not hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, let's continue talking. You will be listening to Ademar Albertin, the program manager at EXIN, and Chris Ledbeater, the product manager at the BCS in UK. Note that the session will be recorded and you will receive the recording by email next week. And you are currently all on mute, but you can ask questions using the chat function, and all questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar. And please get started.
Thank you. So before we start, I would like to introduce myself shortly to you. I'm Ademar Albertin, Program Manager at EXIN. I work at in the SIAM development together with TS, with Chris, and other amazing team to bring all these results to you. Chris?
Yeah, hi, my name is Chris Ledbeater. I work for BS in Swindon with the Chartered Institute for IT in the UK. Based over here in England, a great trip with the guys in EXIN, and we put together a survey and the results. We think you'll find it quite valuable and insightful, and we look forward to presenting to you.
Thank you, Chris. We are going to start with a short introduction before we enter into the massive results that we had. I would like to explain to you how we did the survey and how was the population that we used inside the survey. The survey, it was sent to most part of our candidates database and to our ATOs, not only from EXIN side, but for BCS side too. We reached more than 3,800 professionals inside the market in different 119 countries. It was really great because this can represent to you a lot of different answers and views inside the same subject, and especially because half of the respondent, it was IT service providers, and the rest, it was customers that receive this from the IT service providers. So you can see a lot of different visions about the SIAM, about the service management field, and this can help you to build your offers to the market, and this can help you to build your career path inside SIAM. The demographic is most part of the respondents, 66%, it was related with the middle management and operational management. But had more than 542 senior management that used their time to provide their answers to us and to increase the answers to you. So this means that even the CEOs, they are worried about the subject and how to move forward to have SIAM models and processes inside their companies. Part of the organizations that answered the survey, it was rated on the IT field, but you can see that the rest of the respondents, they were related with other industries that consumes IT services. So do not ignore their visions, because it's based on their visions of how the IT services are right now. You are going to be able to determine which kind of strategies you are going to use for the future, but not for a long term, but for a medium and a short term. To start with the key findings that Chris is going to present to you. Chris?
Thanks, Ademar. Okay. As Ademar has actually said, we went out to an enormous survey group in the Global Reach Survey. We asked a variety of questions about service integration and management, SIAM, as we now know it. So we're going to go through many of these in more detail. But actually what we learned, I think, up front, and this is good to display and show and discuss these findings now, are some key insights which we put into 5 categories. The first, SIAM touches all industries. 57% of our respondents we've already identified came from the IT environment, whether that's a service provider, a development shop, or anybody else with the IT handle in their organisational setup. Talents, however, came from a wide variety of commerce across the world: finance, consultancy, education, health, logistics, etc. So what we conclude from that is that the impact of SIAM is everywhere. Sorry, many slides. My apologies, everybody. The second conclusion was that organisation size is largely irrelevant. Only 35% of respondents work for truly large organisations. By that we mean 10,000 or more employees. Now, there are many companies like that in the world, of course, but they're much smaller in number. So 30% were from very small to medium-sized organisations, probably 50 to 200 people. So what we're seeing is that the effect of SIAM is also everywhere. A third, that purportedly organisations with small IT functions, how you classify your own organisational IT department may include many different roles. We didn't get into that level of detail, but what we found was that more small IT functions implement SIAM than do larger teams. So the size of an organisation's IT function, it doesn't vary in direct proportion to the size of the organisation itself. Some have very large, disproportionately large IT sectors. What's clear is that 43% of our respondents work in small or very small IT teams. So outsourcing in infrastructure and services is becoming ever more widespread, and we conclude from this that the benefits of SIAM will be found everywhere. One really astonishing finding of the survey, with, as we've mentioned a number of times, 3,800 respondents, was training and certification around SIAM are considered to be vital. Or 90% of the respondents recognise that training and then testing the competencies would raise their standards, it would give a more consistent model, and it would achieve their own individual organisation's goals and objectives. That's particularly valuable to organisations looking to train and retain staff. It's particularly vital to the individuals looking to develop their careers. But in a multi-supplier environment, that consistency will always deliver the best results. So we believe that we are heading down the right path. SIAM is becoming mission critical. However, and this was rather interesting, a little bit alarming, is we think some might still be a little bit of a secret. What surprised us most that was 42% of our respondents had actually not heard of SIAM, and that 3% of organisations, only 23% of organisations have actually even implemented a kind of SIAM model. The market opportunity as an industry to embed SIAM is therefore very substantial. Some quick regional statistics and variations, if we may. So, statistically, we had 1,000 respondents out of the 3,800, which came from the Indian subcontinent. That's 27%. That includes slightly proportionately higher percentage of senior managers, 115, so well over 10%, which was quite an encouraging result. A lot of people spent a lot of time and effort in responding to our questions. 2,500 respondents didn't believe their organisation had implemented or will effectively implement SIAM at this time. That's a worryingly large number. We had 100 respondents from outside and beyond the immediate IT industry. We've mentioned this once already, but we think it's an important number. The spread is very wide. We shouldn't ignore the fact that corporates, organisations that actually are the customers of the suppliers, are also involved in the SIAM process. We snapshot of Europe, which is one of the, if you like, developed markets. It's a phrase we'll explain later on. And 340 of our European respondents outside that IT industry, they saw SIAM as a vital tool to improve integration and service, where 180 saw it as a pure cost-saving tool. And we were a little surprised at that. We thought cost-saving might score more highly. In 2000, 74% of 3,400 respondents, some of the one or two of the questions were not answered by everybody. It may not have been relevant to their particular role. But we found is of those 3,400, we're already using a service management framework. One established number. We surveyed on 15 or 16 different established frameworks. 70% actually saw a benefit in also deploying SIAM to manage their complex third-party and external relationships. In this section, almost half of the respondents working outside IT, their organization was already using multiple external suppliers. There was exactly the same proportion as respondents from the IT suppliers. So it's interesting that we can prove from statistically looking at these numbers that SIAM requirements are prevalent right the way across all sectors, IT and non-IT industries. Proud statistic from the survey at this point, of the 3,800 respondents, less than 2% thought their present service management tools and strategies effectively managed multi-source suppliers. We believe this is quite a concern. It leaves a substantial piece of the service management market uncovered. Adam.
Thank you. Now we're going to talk about the correlation with the IT service management world, that it's a part and a field that we cannot ignore when we talk about SIAM. So we, during the survey, we asked to our attendees for how long they were using the IT service management process and frameworks. More than 59%, which means 40% of our errors, it was about more than 10 years using the IT service management processes. This is that most part of the customers, they being more mature in this field already. But we had more 28% of answers that said that they are using IT service management process or no process at all related with IT service management, which means like that is a worried area, because there is some customers, they are not keen on to use IT service management in their organizations yet. But surprisingly, 85% of the respondents, they say that they are not using only IT service management processes. They say that only IT service management processes, it's not enough anymore. They are connecting their IT service management processes with other techniques, such as IT asset management, ISO 20000K, business analysis techniques, DevOps, Agile, Scrum, methodologies, cloud computing, and so on. But here that is really interested is that 52% of the respondents say that they are using productivity IT asset management processes. This result, it was possible because half of our audience, they are consumers of IT service providers. So this means that they are using a third part to deliver their IT services. So for those organizations that is delivering the IT services for a third part, they have concerns about the assets and how the organizations are using their assets to deliver the IT services. So they want to keep the control on the asset management. So IT asset management is still being relevant for most part of the third suppliers, because they need to manage and to prove that they are doing the best manage that it's possible to their customers. So concluding this slide, this presents that IT service management processes is being more mature inside organizations for a long time, but only IT service management processes is not being enough anymore. ITSM with other parties, with other best practices, frameworks, standards, it's being more and more used inside the IT industry. Then we asked about the main reason why they were using IT service management frameworks and practices in the past to now. More part of them, they say that they choose to use ITSM framework to improve the quality and efficiency of the IT services, not only the reducing of operational costs. Usually in the past, most part of the answers should be reducing operational costs, because when most part of the organizations decided to move ahead to have IT service management processes, they said we need to have that to reduce the IT costs, but now even more they are more worried about the quality of the services. This means that even the customers they more worried about the quality than the pricing. And marketing competitive is the third option. And what was really lovely to hear about is that 84% of the respondents they said that they are considering to implement SIAM as part of the IT service management processes or a part of their management system. Doesn't matter which kind of IT service management processes they are using, if it is part of the ISO 20K or purely ITIL. So they are going to consider to implement SIAM in a period that it's going to be from medium to long, but a good part is going to consider to implement right now. So it's not for tomorrow, not for today, but for yesterday. But in the other hand, 54% believe that their IT service management processes are capable to support SIAM implementations. So for this audience, and not for only for this audience, but for all you, we strongly consider and ask to you to access the website escopism.com. That represents the body of knowledge of SIAM, to download for free the guidelines about what is SIAM, how to implement SIAM, what it is the content, how to match the process, and what it is the pain areas that you have to pay attention when you decide to implement SIAM. This content is already available on the Scopism website, so please go there and take a look on this content that is probably this is going to be helpful to increase your knowledge around SIAM field. We also asked about which kind of SIAM benefits are you expecting after the implementation or during the implementation. And the most part of the answers, it was about better services to the end users, improve the value of the services, and increase service management capabilities. So that means that the organizations, again, they are looking for the quality aspect, not for the price aspect. And they are trying to increase more and more their capability, their skills about how to create innovative services inside the market and how to increase the quality of their IT service management processes. So when we touch the base about SIAM, it's not only about to manage the third-party suppliers in a better way or how to match the processes in the best way, but it's still being to increase the quality of the services around IT. As SIAM touched the base about the supplier management and the process that is being used by the suppliers, it was important answers that we collected that we are going to share with you. When we talk about the supply management, 14% of the organizations that attended the survey, they said that they are using 10 or less internal or external suppliers at the same time. So if we consider and we match this information with our past, usually it was more often that the organizations used only one single major supplier to provide the IT services. When we remember about the outsourcing in the past 10, 15 years ago, it was very common that an organization decides to set all the IT services for a single supplier. But now this is changing. So even small organizations or medium organizations, they are using more and more suppliers to provide the IT services. But this means they're using, for example, service desk with a supplier, the data center with another supplier, maybe the network with another supplier, cloud computing with a completely different suppliers. So the customers, they need to be more keen in how to manage multiple suppliers at the same time and guarantee that their process and policies they are being put in place and the suppliers are using in a orderly and in appropriate way. 1% operate with more than 50 suppliers. This is a huge number. So if we imagine an organization working and operating their services over 50 suppliers, it's a lot. So this means that they have to have process that's going to be suitable for a lot of different audience processes have to be matched. Otherwise, the services it's not to deliver the right benefits and the right quality to their customers. And in the other hand, 67% of the suppliers are providing little or no process or service tool integration. So this means that suppliers they are delivering services without using the right process, or they are doing the service delivery manually. So imagine an organization that is IT service provider that have at least say 10 customers. We're talking about 10 different processes and 10 different tools. Probably we need to hire persons only to do the manual aspects and to collect data from a tool to put in another tool. So this means that an error can happen anytime, and the cost of the service delivery can increase more and more according with the increase of the customers and the complexity of the process. So ignore the models, practices, and recommendations mean that probably in short future you are going to increase your costs of service delivery. 82% of suppliers choose to use their own processes and tools. So this means that customers that it's hiring different suppliers, they are suffering with different processes that is being used by the suppliers. So customers, they are not receiving a lot of information related with end-to-end services, but only about information about how is doing the performance about every single supplier. But put yourself in the shoes of the customer. Probably if you are the customer, you want to receive information about the quality of the services from your customers, not from your suppliers. The view is a little bit different when you are the customer. But if you are a supplier, of course, you should understand how is being your delivery. But when we touch base about SIAM, we are talking about integrate all the visions to guarantee that end to end we are going to have the right reports. And another concern when we choose to use the process and the tools from the suppliers, this means that who is owner of the data, who is going to have and hold all the data, all the information. Most part of the customers, they say that even though they are sending their services to a third party, they still have the ownership of the data. In the past, this was a great nightmare because when a supplier decides to leave a customer or the contract comes to an end, probably the supplier is going to take all the data and is not going to deliver to the customer. But nowadays, organizations are more worried about that, so they are investing their time to develop clauses in the contracts to see that the ownership of the data belongs to them and not with the supplier, which is really good. Then what it is the correlation about the reporting and audit is. 70% of the suppliers said that they generate useful reports to their organizations and to their customers. In the end, 71% of the organizations say that they are auditing their suppliers currently. So this means that suppliers that have regular audits, they are more able to deliver the reports because they are more keen to deliver everything that is described in the contract. So 30% of the suppliers that it's not having regular audits, they are not delivering the right reports to the organizations. So looking for the customer perspective, I would say invest more, have regular audits. Look for the service provider aspects, I would say look for the contracts aspects of reporting to provide the right information, the right data to your customer. Processes that was agreed at during contract fees. And 46% of the suppliers, they are using their own reporting information So this means that the organizations that are customers from the suppliers, the reporting is not adding any kind of value. So it means that the customers cannot take any kind of decision based on that format, because the customer is only looking for the supplier aspects, but not for the service aspects, and it can be a pain area for the customer and even though for the supplier. And then 35% is more concerned about the reporting end to end, but it's like that it's not so high and have to be increased. Other pain area that we asked during the survey, it was about the transition plan. What means transition plan? The transition plan, it is about when you are a customer, you have hired a supplier to deliver a service to you. But then when you finish the contract, another supplier was chosen to deliver the services. So during the period of the transition between a supplier A to the supplier B, usually there is a major impact on the service delivery. The major impact that was related, it was service unavailability and bad experience from the suppliers to the customers, because they're not able to deliver all the services that was described inside the contract. And this can generate a lot of different impacts inside the business field. 85% of the organizations accepted already that this is their own responsibility to develop and to charge these kind of plans from the suppliers or from the A or from the B. So 40% of them, they said, okay, we know that, but we didn't establish any kind of transition plan. And this can be the problem, because they have the awareness that this is their responsibility and this needs to be done. But 40% are not doing that, and this brings the impacts to the business.
Okay, let's look at a few final points of interest from the survey, if we may. Things that we actually concluded by looking at the answers, we sorted them into various different filters, and we became aware that many organisations are clearly trying to make do today with service management frameworks that were never designed in the first place to manage multiple suppliers. We expect that's probably a concern for some of you on this call. It was certainly a concern for hundreds, if not thousands, of the respondents on the survey. So a couple of points here. From a supplier management perspective, only 50% of respondents out of that big pool of people and their organisations have already established a full policy and procedures for managing suppliers, whether they're singular or multiple. And where a multi-sourcing model's in play, just 20% of the respondents that we surveyed to implement a model that considers both internal team and external suppliers. And we think that's a very common model, because your own internal IT function may still be continuing, and the manage seeking to outsource certain services, certain roles. And so that blended model, hybrid model, if you prefer that terminology, is likely to continue to be grow over time. So quite a lot of people really need to get a handle on how to manage multi-sourcing. We think SIAM's a pretty good way to do that. We quote, I'm not going to read it out to you, but it was one of the best quotes that we saw. It's common practices don't exist. What about reporting standards? And this gentleman actually said, look forward to implementing SIAM. But we would need to have additional knowledge on this subject. So that's all part of this series of webinars and activities that we're undertaking to roll out this knowledge. We actually found that this was quite a common theme. Comments we saw were very similar to this. That was the most articulate. We should point out, it is your chat bar there, that we do actually have a body of knowledge provided by Scopus, which you can download free of charge. And we direct you towards that, because if you need additional knowledge about SIAM before you decide where you're going to take it within your personal career or within your organisation, then go and look at the body of knowledge. It's sitting there waiting for you to use. So I'm going to hand you back to Adamar as we start to go through the conclusions of the survey.
Thank you. So we are going to start the conclusions of the survey, the main ones, because well, during the presentations we presented already a lot of different conclusions to you for it, so you can already enjoy a lot of different informations inside your business. What was amazing to see it was that 92% of our respondents, they told us that a formal training and testing, like a certification for organizations employee, will help them to best manage a multi-source supplier model and assist the organization to efficiently meet their goals. So we could notice during all the questions that there is a lot of interest into really understand better what is SIAM and what it is, the benefits, and how to implement. Usually, most part of the questions that we received is said, okay, that's fine, but we understood what it is the main reason, but how we are going to implement, how we are going to deal with that, how we are going to balance the efficiency and the speed of the adoption and should the and inside the service delivery. And we are more than glad to say to you that all this information is available already on the Escopism website. So do not take one more second without go to Escopism website and take the bot of knowledge free of charge for you, because mainly SIAM is not going anywhere. SIAM it's here to stay.
We want to also spend a small amount of time trying to scan the market for everybody as a point of interest. It's an exercise we need to do anyway. And so what we did was we looked, we don't really know the absolute size of the global population. There are service professionals all over the world. Many answered this survey. So what we tried to do was to gain a measure of the potential. Now, sitting in the UK, I have access to some fairly robust numbers about the size and complexity of organisations and the job roles within those organisations. And using some standard assumptions and some mathematical models, we were able to come up with a weighted number. We think out of a population of 65 million people, UK only, that we've probably got about 29,000 equivalent heads, full-time equivalent heads that are working all around the SIAM discipline. Now, that can be queried, but it's a good starting point. In UK terms, that equates to 446 candidates per million of the population. So we do this. Well, if the other developed markets, and I use that term very loosely, all we did was we looked at markets where we've got some reasonable statistical data and where we know that there's a mature IT and services industry. It by no means precludes the rest of the world. I'll come on to that in a moment. So North America, US, Canada, of course, Europe, EU, including Norway and Switzerland, in Asia with Japan and Korea, just to pick some samples of markets. The population of those developed markets is over 1 billion people. If we're applying 446 candidates per million, there may well be almost 500,000, 474,000 individuals employed SIAM as their core objectives. Now, earlier in the survey, we did actually read out a number that said that 43% of global respondents' organisations are looking to adopt SIAM practices. So if we applied that number to the 474,000, still over 200,000 individuals whose organisations are at this time seeking to implement SIAM best practices. Then we look at the rest of the world, many other developed and emerging markets. If we look at the big economies, Russia, India, China, they have a population of over 3 billion people. Now, they might not be achieving 446 candidates per million who are SIAM as their hobby or the love of their life, but you can guarantee it's going to generate tens and tens of thousands more individuals with the requirement to look at SIAM and to be coached and educated how best to apply the practices. So we believe that the global market is genuinely hundreds of thousands of people. And that's why we've worked jointly, BCS and EXIN, with Scopism to develop the body of knowledge and to develop certification programs that we believe can help this global community. So moving to the conclusion, we're going to repeat some of the labels that we used earlier. We think they're important. SIAM is everywhere. We out, and people from almost half the countries in the world, 119 different nations shared their thoughts and opinions about SIAM with BCS and EXIN. Proves that there's an awareness and a requirement for SIAM all around the world. The SIAM is everywhere. A large majority of our respondents recognise that individual service management might help them cope, but only SIAM management practices would actually make the task significantly easier to manage and would add value to them as individuals and to their organisation's objectives and goals.
Doesn't matter which kind of country you are located, if it is Asia, USA, Brazil, European countries, Japan, Asia, and so on. Remember about that, 92% of our respondents, they say we are interested in to understand what it is SIAM, and we truly believe in the education and the certification. And most part of the respondents, 82%, said we are ready and we are considering to implement SIAM. So this means that most part of our respondents from 119 different countries, they are able to further for SIAM. SIAM is becoming more mission critical. 43% of the respondents were outside the IT industry, so that means that they are customers and are more than keen to receive services that is based on a model that is going to be more suitable to them. Remember that most part of the companies are connecting their IT service management frameworks with other practices, and SIAM can be the gateway, can get all these practices to guarantee the best match between suppliers plus customer ITSM processes and practices. So now, if you have any kind of question, I need to listen to you.
Thanks, Anamar. I already have a few questions coming in, but if anyone else has questions, please type them in the chat, and then we will address them as well. What are the current SIAM certifications? What are the SIAM certifications?
It's offered only by EXIN BCS, and we have nowadays the foundation level, and sooner this year, probably in the last quarter, we are going to have the professional level.
Is material set to be used as the basis to develop your own training program?
Answer this?
You're on
mute. I apologise. Yeah, definitely. We basic training material that is available for training organisations as part of their courseware build. If you like, if this question is being asked by a trainer, and I guess it was, it acts as a framework or a scaffolding against which you would build your course. Obviously, you will need to make adjustments for your own market that you may be heavily reliant on one or two major corporate organisations, and the framework or the scaffold will allow you to build in that respect. So as a trainer, come and talk to BCS or EXIN. We have a common model, and we'll be happy to provide you with the basic training material.
Thank you, Chris. Another question. I presume this follows EXIN standard accreditation scheme? Yes. And you can the basic training material to develop your own training and send that in for accreditation. Do know that, of course, one of your trainers must have passed the exam as well. It's to be able to do the SIAM certification.
However, there is no pre-requirement. You can go to Escopism website, www.escopism.com, and go for the bulk downloads that it's free of charge, studied according with the preparation guide syllabus, and then go further for the examination session. Or you can go for an official training provider that's accredited by EXIN or BCS and perform the training and go for the certification.
Languages is the training material available up to now? To that question, the basic training material that EXIN and BCS have available is in English. You can translate that yourself and provide that to the accreditation departments. It's possible that there are other organizations that develop training or material and sell that. So you look, at least on the EXIN website, you can search for ACP, accredited courseware provider, and they have several languages available. Do note it's quite a new program, and the exam is only in English at this moment, so there may not be very many languages available at this moment. Next question, exactly is SIAM? It's Service Integration and Management or Supplier Integration and Management? From this session, I understand that it is more about supplier management.
Not. It's about the service integration management. It's because the suppliers, they are a crucial part inside the service delivery nowadays, because inside the survey we try to understand what it is, the kind of behavior that the organization is having nowadays. And most part of the organizations, they are using different suppliers to deliver their IT services. So it doesn't matter if it is like a small company, a medium company, or a major company, they're using suppliers to try to deliver a huge or a different, a competitive IT services. So we have to touch the base about the suppliers, because it's about them together with the customer to create and to provide the services. And SIAM, it's more than the supplier. SIAM, it talks about how you are going to integrate the services and guarantee that you have the management inside your hands to deliver efficient service to your customer, the quality and the right cost.
Thank you. What are levels after the SIAM foundation level?
That's going to be available in the last quarter of this year.
And the training will be mandatory for candidates, and it will probably contain practical assignments.
Definitely, yes.
Here, not an easy question. What is the cost for foundation level certification? That depends a little bit on the exam channel you choose, or whether you go to a training provider where you will also take the exam. EXIN has prices available on the website if you go via EXIN Anywhere or at Pearson View. Maybe BCS has the same system with prices on the website. So you also take a look there. It can differ per country as well.
Yeah, Vivian, it is on the SIAM page on the website as a standard price, but as you've mentioned, there will always be a variation depending on how it's delivered.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Chris. I see no more questions coming in. If you have, do type. In the meantime, I would like to thank Chris and Ademar for their information and their time. Oh, there is a question coming in. Here is a potential challenge. Most of the information I have seen in the body of knowledge is service management related in terms of combining different practices already in place in the market. So the differentiator for SIAM is just on the supplier integrator side. Thoughts?
It's about both. It's about the integration part and it's about the supplier part. Because when we look into the IT service management practices and models that is available in the market, they talks about that you need to manage the suppliers, and there is process already established for that. But usually this development, it happened at like 10 years ago, and nowadays the reality is a little bit different. That includes also, for example, cloud computing technology and suppliers that change a little bit how you are going to behave, how we are going to manage the suppliers and the processes that it's around that. So SIAM covers more topics than 10 years ago. So SIAM, it represents more the reality of the organizations nowadays. So it's about both. It's about integration, it's about the supplies, it's about the management.
Incident and problem management process different in SIAM framework. Incident problem management process different in a SIAM framework. Different than in the ITSM framework.
Yeah, of course, we always use the traditional IT service management processes as they are, because we are not going to say to the organizations, change it just because of SIAM, but there are some aspects that you have to consider when we talk about integrate with a supplier or a different parts of your organizations that works with, for example, different processes, because we look for the literature around incident management, problem management, change management, even capacity availability, and so on. They can be a little bit different between organizations worldwide. So when we talk about have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 50 different organizations combining their skills, their capability to offer a single service in the market, yes, there is some differentials that have to be considered. And SIAM is going to teach you how you are going to consider all these differentials between different processes, which kind of pain areas you are going to face it, and how you are going to deal with that. So yeah, the traditional IT service management is still being based. This is not going to change. This is not going anywhere. But you have to look forward to integrate with different process.
Thank you. Can we get the PowerPoint presentation and the recording? Yes, you can. I will send everybody who's in the webinar an email next week where you will find the recording and the presentation as a PDF. And I will also refer you again to the Scopism website where you can find the body of knowledge. Question: compared to the Whale and Service Management Framework. Oh, I think that's the last part of the previous question. All right, next question. Does SIAM help in integrating multiple SLAs in a multi-environment for ITSM processes?
Even for service level management, there is the techniques and the pain areas that you have to attention and to take a look when you go and integrate. All this information is available on the body of knowledge. So I cannot, I can try to explain to you, but it's like a longer answer that, because it's about like try to explain to you all the aspects that is related with the service level management. So if you prefer, you can text to marketing@exin.com that we can have like a separate conversation about that. But if you want to have an answer right now, please access scopism.com and take a look at the body of knowledge that is available there.
Management different from vendor management?
Not exactly. Sometimes some organizations call some their processes as vendor. Sometimes they use supplier. But more often, vendor, it's more related with like organizations that sells products, but not services, and supplier more for services. It's about terminology. But could be, for example, an organization that sells services that they call as vendors. So we cannot have control about that. Sorry for that.
And here, maybe a final question. Is supplier and service provider, is that the thing for the customer we are serving?
Let's split the terms. We talk about the customer, it's who is receiving the services. And suppliers, it's those that is offering and delivering the services. But even though environment where you are the customer, and all your IT department, it's a third part or different multiple third part, even though you have your own process. So even this kind of environment, yes, it's more important for you to have SIAM to guarantee that your third-party suppliers is going to follow and they are integrated inside your own processes.
Can be used in a product-based company. A brief insight, please. Introduced in a product-based company.
If related with IT, yes, this could be the case. But for example, if it is a company that sells, for example, routers, I don't know, or some hardwares, maybe have to have some kind of, for example, incident management process for when the customer faced some problems with their hardware that was delivered in the past, and they have to provide the troubleshoot. So in this case, yes, But if it is just a relationship where I'm just the sales representative, but I'm not going to provide any kind of support, please, SIAM is not going to be suitable. As I mentioned also, it's not going to be.
Is supplier service provider the same thing? Question. So yeah, that Adamar has answered that question previously. Oh, it was not clear. There, he responds.
I'll try to use different examples. So imagine it that you are the company that is delivering the service. So you are the supplier in this case. Those that are receiving your services, they are considered your customers.
So service provider means
Yeah.
Yes. I hope that was clear to you now. Okay, we get it. Thanks. I come to the end of the webinar. If there's more questions, you can send them to marketing@exin.com, and we will address your question later by email. Again, Adamar and Chris, thank you very much for your time and information. And I wish everybody a lovely day and evening, and I hope to see you again in the next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.